What's going on, y'all? Darby here. And in this episode, I'm going to be interviewing in a casual conversation Justin Runez, who is now an Austin based founder building an AI startup. And we had a great conversation and talked about a lot of things related to the state of AI, where we think AI is going, how entrepreneurs, founders, builders, and other people that are just getting into the space can see what's going on from the perspective of Justin's lens, his experience in the field in tech and building AI powered tools and software over the years. And I hope you enjoy this conversation between myself and Justin Runez. Let us know if you do. Like and subscribe and drop a comment with any insights, takeaways that you got. Keep calling AI on. We'll see you on the other side. Hey, Justin, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Doing good
Good to meet
myself.
you.
Yeah, man, this podcast in our community is just about highlighting people that are building and doing stuff. I'd love to just learn more in general about kind of your background, getting you into AI, what you're building that gets you excited, and your thoughts on the current landscape of where things are at. We had some conversations about where developers and builders fit into this process. Maybe to kick things off, let people know a little bit about who you are and what you do, and we take things from there.
Yeah, thanks, Darby. My name is Justin, and I've been building technology apps, mobile apps for a little bit more than a decade. I moved here from California before moving here to Austin and worked everything from agency work in San Francisco to contracting with Apple on the Apple Search Ads platform team, working on user roles and permissions and billing, and then moving on to AIG, working on some more internal tools. But in the meantime, while I was doing all of my software development work, I've always had a fascination of real estate. And it even started as a former real estate agent myself, working at Zip Realty. It was this lead CRM brokerage firm that provided leads as an agent and got quickly acquired within 6 months of me joining as an agent to Coldwell Banker for 166 million. And it was then that I really understood that value of these real estate brokerages are in huge competition to acquire new software and technology because they're all competing against one another. And so I wanted to always bridge that gap in the meantime, while I was developing apps for all these enterprise companies, have done a couple of different fix and flips with some partners, buy and holds, and really being on both sides of the transaction process, and really figured out that there's still a lot of gaps in the industry. And when all of this AI started popping up, it was almost the perfect chance to hop in and contribute and really add value again back into this industry, because it's very top of mind, not just for agents, but contractors is what we're finding in this space as well.
Sounds like a lot of it centered around making the transaction process just smoother in general, and your background in real estate is obviously contributing to understanding the product. Is there, like, when you're talking about building the platform you've built out and where AI fits in the equation, how critical do you see that being a feature that is, like, right now? Is that something that agents are eager to use these tools that are just knowing that they're going to save them more time? Do you find that AI is confusing on some ends? I'm curious how that narrative is from what you're seeing the users respond most to as
Yeah,
agents, but also contractors. I'm wondering if there's a mix of how they even feel about these tools. Are they loving them, or are they hesitant at first?
yeah, there's some segments that see it more of a risk in this very deterministic industry where contracts can't be 90% c- complete and or accurate. They need to be 100%. And so they really do see automation more of a value than they do in its current state AI, with these probabilistic mechanisms that AI, like chatbots, for example, offers. Obviously, there's not the entire market segment isn't like that because there are some that really do value this. It just takes a little bit either more convincing and time and trust to build. But I did mention this idea of contractors who we're finding are like a little bit more receptive because they're already not just taken up with their time as well, but also see the value of client onboarding, an automation process around that, transaction management, and this smart documents back and forth process that we're helping agents out with as well. And so they get it in a way because they're always trying to adopt and also outcompete in that same competitive landscape. And so the contractors that do work with the real estate agents have a little bit more of that understanding because especially we do have some contractors that are also licensed real estate agents and
Mm,
they get it
yeah.
like, very quickly. And so it's that market segment that we're really seeing drive this new revolution of adopting this technology and experimenting with a lot of these other tools like HeyGen and
Yeah.
11 Labs, where we're seeing and experimenting and testing right now to be able to merge not just text education and micro courses for these agents, but also combining that with audio, token generation, and video, avatar generation.
Stuff that voice and video is capable of today is pretty pretty wild compared to even what it was a year ago. And I think I just saw something on LinkedIn about 11 Labs posting like the increase between audio consumption today versus in 2014 is like astronomically higher across the board, which in terms of how users are consuming audio, but also how are people expressing things and interacting online. There's so much change with how much content is even being produced. You've mentioned even like the trust of what people can rely on these systems and these language models. I think it's like a top of mind subject for a lot of people right now. How do you even know who to trust if everyone has their own AI avatar that's generating things? So there's obviously like ethical considerations when it comes to developing this technology, especially like you say, like the experimental side of it. Important to remember that we're so early. Is there anything that you're seeing or you're doing in terms of the ethical and the trust factor that like you're finding is helping support your cause in building this platform more so? And again, like I see both sides of the online spheres. One, there's half of it's I just can't trust AI, hate it, don't want anything to do with it, get it out of here. And then there's like the other half that are super excited and building and doing things with it. And then obviously there's people in the middle, but trust seems to be the thing that a lot of people are struggling with in terms of connecting with companies or just people with AI. Any thoughts on your side from your perspective where that's playing into how you're developing and building?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I just want to preface this in saying we are in a very experimental phase as an industry today. And everyone is playing around with all these different models. And how we see it is very expensive today to generate end to end. Obviously, those costs will come down. And that's why you're seeing today all of the infrastructure being built out by like Google and OpenAI with Stargate and X and Facebook and Meta. They're all building out all these infrastructures because of how expensive all of this is going to cost to be able to run a text token generation plus an audio text or an audio token generation and then a video audio generation, which is what it is going to be needed to be able to fully form that, say, avatar that looks and feels like, say, a real estate agent or a contractor. And so the way we're handling that is through education and not in the sense of education to our customers, but more about education as a product. Because I think that's where like the lowest hanging fruit, the less risk, I guess, less risky product that will come out into the marketplace It's this idea of being able to generate like self-learning modules. In our industry, it would be for real estate transactions. One of the hardest, I guess, pieces to understand as either a new first-time home buyer or for sure a first-time home seller. It's understanding that end-to-end process. What does it mean to be able to go through all the documents that are needed? Like, why am I signing this lead like form? All of these different just questions that do take up a lot of time for agents today. Or even if you're a for sale by owner type of client, you still want to understand that process fully and all the different stakeholders needed in order to buy a home or sell a home. And we're starting off with being able to save the time of the broker and the brokerage themselves, the company, and their agents in that client or in that training process. Because when I was starting off as a first time agent, you quickly understand that you're in full competition with everyone in your brokerage. Like you either join a team, which I did, and I got some great mentorship from he's still doing amazing business in Los Gatos, California, David Lewis, a great guy. And he taught me everything I needed to know, but that's because I joined his team and I was able to ask and retain that knowledge that he gave me. But I know a lot of other agents either don't see that as a path or want to do it themselves, or they're in a brokerage that other agents don't have that capacity right now. And so that's why you see today sales training courses, real estate agent education courses popping up, and why they exist is to offload that education away from the brokerage themselves and giving that education to that agent who is willing to spend that money. We want to drive that cost down from an education standpoint. And that is where we see the lowest hanging fruit to be able to help add value. Where we see this customer facing avatar agent is where it gets tricky. And that is what raises the ethical concerns, because now you're dealing with something that is supposed to look like you, is trained on you, that can speak like you, answer questions like you. That's where that conversational dynamic token generation, like question and response back and forth, I think we're still a little whiles away from that, even from a cost perspective. That's why we are moving forward in video generation first and video resource library
Mhm.
as our first step.
Is that like a video resource library where people with access to your platform are able to learn from these different modules and different educational pathways that you've created to helping them with understanding all of this part of the process rather than it taking your time to re-explain everything or come up with something new?
You can think of it as micro courses for
Yeah.
agents. And then we want the agent market to continue building that human client relationship in this home buying and home selling process. That's why right now we're ourselves hesitant about offering, say, home buying as a video resource or home selling as a video resource. We want the agents to be able to build that relationship with the
Mhm.
clients, because we as a company can't help every homeowner or home buyer and home seller in every single market in every single city around the world. That's why real estate agents exist, so that home buyers
Mhm.
and home sellers do have a resource and a human person that they can rely on in there. That's what the beauty of our business is. We're already built in with a human in the loop as part of our product, because you still need someone to open the door and be there and guide you through that process. It is a very physical industry in a way. Contractors themselves they touch like the world around them physically. Like they have the hammers and the wood and all of the materials that are needed. That's what makes our industry unique.
Yeah, I think like on this, like building on the note of the human in the loop and like how critical that is like also part of it is identifying where can you remove the friction after the human in the loop is done with the process, or what's preventing them from doing what they do best more often, which to me is where AI really shines on the operational front, right? From all of the things that technology can enable us to do, a lot of it's just automation. And it was a thing before AI became like the key word that was in every product now. But AI is a great accelerant for the processes that are already streamlined and put in place. And from any contractor standpoint, the less time you can spend doing just tedious tasks that you wish you didn't have to be doing, being able to even free up those areas of your time, task by task, will eventually, that compounding, new time that you're creating for yourself to build those relationships is where the biggest value is. At least that's where I see it going. I don't see the relationships like getting taken away by AI. The need for them. In fact, there's more desire to build more deeper connections with actual humans. And yeah, it's like I think that you're on the same page with that in terms of what you guys are building, right? It's like all around supporting that human in the loop that's really that point of contact with the customer. What other roles do you see AI and operator we were talking about prior to this call, like those types of agentic AIs that can be more autonomous? Where do you see that accelerating the growth of the real estate or the contracting business?
Yeah, I believe we talked about this on our last call. This
Mhm.
idea of how humans in the future will be more reviewers than doers. And that's, I believe, the role of what we're seeing with operator, and where I believe that is heading with these uh, assisted systems in a more remote access way through an like with an AI. We've already seen that with the OpenAI operator implementation. I have been thinking about that a little bit more. And yes, you have two sides of the coin with automation. And automation in terms of an AI agent controlling all of your tasks and having access to all of the things that you need. But the problem is this fragmented world we live in, and the workarounds that all of these other enterprises have built already that is getting disrupted even with this operator type of product. And what I'm talking about is this API infrastructure and API access with OAuth tokenization that a lot of these enterprise companies have been building. They're still building, they're continuing to contribute. But now you have these remote operators that might even sit on your desktop as a mouse and keyboard visual access to all of your systems. So I don't know how the industry is going to handle this, because the whole point of OAuth and API integration is for that security and that application security, to know what user and what actor is performing the actions on that platform. Say it's Meta or Instagram or Facebook. The reason why they built that platform is so that they can track all of the different actions, the different endpoints that they have, whether it's sending a message or DM or replying to a comment. Like LinkedIn API also has that same functionality, and that's essentially the whole Google infrastructure with their Google Cloud API and all of the different functions with Maps and Google Business that they have. Now, imagine the world that we were just thinking or just talking about last. Now you just have an open AI kind of application that runs on your desktop that has access to your full screen, that throws out everything out the door. It's now you don't, as as an enterprise, don't really have visibility into any actor that's making actions on your application. You
Mhm.
essentially don't have, you just assume now that actor is a human or just any random user. Like, I think that's one of the problems that I think OpenAI is probably going to run into. I'm sure have already run into it. It's this idea of how to bypass or work with, and more probably what's going to have to happen. This idea of working well with these other enterprises to not go against their terms of service. I don't know if you've ever tried this, but being able to create an automated like a script using Chromium, like a Chrome browser, and you essentially become an operator, you build your own operator type of system that goes against Meta's
Hmm.
terms of service. Like you'll get flagged very easily for trying to scrape Instagram using that method.
Yep.
And that's why you can't use Meta right now with operator and Instagram because spam reasons and all of that. But that is going to be, and I'm sure that's already in conversation, like what happens when there is a visual model, like an OpenAI operator that has access to your screen, that now all these other corporations, what do they do with that? I don't know.
Well, you
What do you
talked you talked about having their own operators inside of their own platforms maybe, and maybe it's a matter of having extremely limited access to what the system's able to do, but I don't know either. It's this person just 100x their use what they're doing on our platform. Clearly, it's like an automation and or an operator of some sort. I imagine they're not gonna want that because it's gonna screw with a lot of their data, and they're trying to protect all their user privacy and their platform from spam and all the things that people do with these tools when you can do anything. And there's gonna be spam, there's gonna be, like, negative effects of it as well as there's obviously, like, positive things that will come from this technology too. What are your thoughts, if you don't mind going a little bit deeper on that idea of these different platforms and developing their own systems? Because we see it with Amazon now too and coming up with their own models, and then apparently it's now extreme a lot cheaper than for some people to develop their own large language models, which it seems like that price is gonna maybe continue to drop and people will be able to build their own very effectively one day. People talking about it, likening it with electricity at eventually as everyone's able to have access to it. Do you have any thoughts on what that world looks like? Even like an operator driven internet where everyone does in fact have their own AI operators doing all of the things that they could have been doing before manually.
Yeah, and it's that idea of abundance that I believe like Elon and all these other leaders talk about. I ran a simple test just with two AI agents that have both have access to my calendar, or one has access to my calendar, one doesn't, one's trying to book. And even just having these two AI agents try to book a meeting on my calendar made it very easy and gave me the light bulb in my own head very quickly that, oh, if everyone had this idea of an operator and automated agents, say being able to book on your calendar, I think we mentioned this on the last call. That's where be able to have a fully booked calendar until the end of time, because your AI agent could even theoretically go out and find people that you need to meet with or that would be great for you to meet with. And they'll book you on your calendar and they'll book you on your theirs. And you're going to, I had this chuckle because you'll be sitting in a meeting in front of somebody booked on your calendar through your AI agent, and you don't even know how you ended up talking to this person. But then as you keep talking to them, you realize that they're the best match for you in that specific moment in time. And you're going to have your whole week planned out and your whole month planned out like that with just people that in succession would be perfect for you to run your business or for you to do the tasks that you need to do in your life. And everything was just going to be pre-scheduled for you in the best way possible. And all through the use of all of these different AIs and operators that are working on your behalf. And I am a little bit more optimistic on that front for at least just on the booking and scheduling like piece of automation and an AI talking to each other and finding out the best, yeah, the best people that you should be interacting with. Because I think us as humans, especially in this day and age where you do have segments of the market where, and I talk about segments of the market like we're all like just like segments, but we're all people in general, some people. they're more introverted, for example, and some people don't have that capability to like, initiate that outbound conversation, but everyone needs help. And that AI agent would almost act as your, say, outbound solution to be able to go out and make a connection. That's where I think it's scary in an ethical sense because, yes, as a human, like I want people like I promote the idea of like you as a human should go out and go talk to people. You should go out and shake hands and you should but it is scary, right? It's the approach, for example, like approaching
Mhm.
somebody like randomly on the street. And that's where we can always hope for the best of people to be able to do that. But do people do that nowadays? Not sure. This, and say you had an AI agent or operator do that for you. Yes, it's great. Yes, you'll meet the best people and like in front of you as possible, but is that the right human interaction? Uh, I don't know. And that's where the my own brain kind of melts because it's good to a point, but then I feel like you do need to have that skill set of being able to go out and initiate a conversation like randomly. So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I feel like people forget how to communicate with each other, then we're in big trouble. And you already see that happening from isolation and people being socially disconnected and not going out or doing this. And it affects people differently. We saw a big thing with the 2020 stuff, and it wasn't good for a lot of mental health reasons, amongst a lot of other things. People being kept inside, isolated, not going out and meeting. But then just the act of opening up new conversations and meeting new people through the internet to facilitate a Zoom call to connect. There's pros and cons to it, I think, with however you want to approach that. If the question that would enter my mind is like, why am I doing this in the first place? Do I want to fill my calendar up with 20 calls this week? So what's the purpose of that? And if I'm not clear on what that purpose is, then a calendar full of phone calls with people I've never met sounds like a huge drain to the introvert side of me. The extrovert side of me is cool. It's like everyone go and have a fun game night and do this type of thing, and I'll get recharged from that. But I don't get lit up by going and manually sending 50 DMs to people every single day, even if I know that would be a good conversation to open. And it takes time and energy to do that. But I think with where agents will certainly impact how I operate is in being able to execute when I know the time is right to implement some level of outreach to get a conversation started. And I think being a lot more hyper targeted about who you want to be meeting with is going to be important here and getting clear on that. Because you mean, like you say, you don't want to, or you want it to be the right people that you're getting on a call with. And oh, that's why I'm on the call with this person. So if I'm like, I'm a contractor and I want to meet with 10 millionaire homeowners that want to renovate their house to then eventually sell it and put it on the market in 3 months. There's a lot of work that goes into going and finding those people from me thinking about it. But if I'm like able to articulate that to my AI agent that is an expert at going and finding these people, I'm like, hey, I just want 10 of these emails drafted and sent. I want to be able to review them or personalize them before, but I want you to like find these people for me. That to me sounds like a dream because it's going to take a lot of the time out of actually going and identifying that person to where I'm like reviewing, like take back, where's the human in this loop? It's on the review process and making the final okay to say, yeah, we're going to execute on this. I guess like everyone's going to have their own like opinions on how full they want their calendar. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a full calendar.
And this is really in the context of like real estate agents, because I hear this all the time. Like from the hesitation standpoint, I believe there always will be, and I hope there will be this variety of real estate agents. And I like seeing and today the variety of all the different shapes and sizes of people who are helping people buy and sell homes, and even contractors. It's the same. It's the same way. And the reason why I say that is because I think there's a misconception that, say, with AI, it's it'll look and feel like one robot, or And that with the pushback with Siri and Alexa, it's one voice, right?
Hmm.
But I think in the future, especially with all the customization that we are starting to get with personalized audio, personalized video, that's where I think that can come into play very nicely, where now you're able to digitize in a way with your consent, obviously, like exact like a persona that looks and feels like you. Obviously, it's not you, but has the same quote unquote vibe as you.
Yeah.
And it's this sense of having your agent look and understand you the best so that your agent can go out and promote the best qualities of yourself. And like you said, really accomplish the goals that you want to have set with a partner in crime that knows you, that can go out and accomplish those tasks for you and help you accomplish those tasks if that's the way you want your agent to run. But there is going to be that use case of, at least like with real estate agents and builders, they want to be meeting people. They want to
Hmm.
be out in the field. They want like their calendars booked up with in-person meetings. And maybe that's
Yeah.
like how we see the world. And maybe that is something we need to promote more of. It's our AI agents not booking us Zoom calls. It's like our AI agents, which is what we're doing right now for our customers, is helping them book in person meetings and fewer meetings, but the right quality and the right type of person that they can get along with. Because the reason why I bring that up, the variety of like why there's so many real estate agents and why I'm excited for that future still, is because you're not going to get along with everybody. There's people that you
Hmm.
vibe with, there's people that you don't vibe with, and from builders, from construction to everybody and every professional. You want to be able to work with people that you get along with and that
Hmm.
your partner gets along with. And
Like
if it doesn't work out
there's
with
an
it,
app in that too, just like the vibe check AI.
by the way, tangent to that point, one of the problems that I always had in my head, even ever since college, was this idea of there's no way that you can find a roommate or test out living with a roommate. And I think that could be possible in the future with this, say, a vibe check app,
So, hey, go rent an
because
Airbnb, put your 2 AIs together and have them live together for a week in AI world and be like, "Oh, this guy sucks." They gotta have something like that for dating coming out soon enough, like the Hinge, but AI or
well,
Bumble or however that works.
let's see. This is the point about the ethical question that you just asked, right? It's
Yeah.
how far do we take this? And I think we're all still trying to figure this out. We're all in an experimental phase, and I think there's going to be some hard stances from companies that the companies should take. And I'm still trying to navigate like every other company and startup here, trying to figure this thing out about what is the best stance to take with all of this. Because
Mm.
it's I and I talk about this with my friend all the time. It's, even though we can do it, should we do it? And I think that's a question that we'll all be continuing to ask ourselves as we have more tech in front of us. And
Is it like
that's
from Jurassic Park or whatever when they're spend all the time thinking we could do this or whatever Jeff Goldblum says, I think it's in the
yeah, we need
first
that
movie.
exact quote for that. And yeah, you're right. And with the Hinge and virtual dating and all of that as well, and just relationships in general, we're all like humans, we're all people. We all need that sense of touch. I think
Mhm.
it's going to be a scary world to think that like we are going to completely turn ourselves digital. And I'm happy in a way that there hasn't been that mass adoption of, say, Apple Vision Pro and Quest. You do have some people doing that, but I'm happy in a way not to see that grow, because that to
Mm.
me gives me the sense of hope that people do want like physical interaction. People do want to go out to a club or a bar or like an event or coffee shop and be able to interact with people in like face to face versus the opposite side of that is everyone's got these headsets and virtualization and yeah, I know we're doing this in Zoom. We're both here in Austin. I'm more happy to be able to meet in person, right? For future events, for example. And so I think that is something to look forward to. I feel like with all of this AI and tech that we're talking about, yes, there's pros and cons to all of this. It is a tool. I just had a conversation about this last night that we as a society have gone from this world of not being able to communicate to each other in a sense, but to now being able to communicate with our parents like across the opposite side of the world with our phones, which is great. So it's not like I'm knocking like technology because we're building more technology. It's more of
Mhm.
the sense of understanding the pros and cons of it. It's a tool, right? And we need to figure out the best ways to use this properly as a whole. So
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think I get most excited, and I am working on a project right now to help with making it easier to just hang out with people and match up social calendars, but actually connecting those in-person events. And I think across the board, I'm seeing a big surge in person meetups. And I think you should have gotten the invite too for the AI founders meetup here in a few weeks. Just stuff like that where you can meet together, hang out, have a little face to face, and do it in an environment that you get to meet other people doing cool stuff and stuff that you're interested in. The more opportunities like that that we can create and facilitate with less legwork, then I think more good will come from those types of events. And you could take it to whatever degree you want. But again, when it comes to even setting up events and scheduling events, there's still action items and things that AI can help with. Writing event descriptions, writing outreach emails, writing a newsletter to tell people about your event. And if you set up a lot of events like I know you have, like a lot of that stuff's going to come more second nature to you. But now AI can also enable someone who's never set up an event before, and it can even just make a hangout to go meet up and play some board games with some friends that you say you're going to hang out with, but haven't. Because how many times have we all done that? Yeah, let's hang out soon. And then like 6 months goes by and you're like, dang it, we were going to hang out last time I saw you, but it's been a year. Less of that and more actual in-person connections, I think I feel like it's going to be a win for whether how much AI is involved in that or not, but seems to be a good place to go in terms of building our social connections and deeper relationships rather than more shallow, wide, more narrow, deep.
yeah, yeah. And as we keep going on in this trajectory, I don't know, I can't say that word. I think where it gets really scary is the conversation around robots, which I don't really have a strong opinion yet. Besides that, I'm surprised how fast it's popping up in today's world, which I never thought it would pop up like this quickly. I know that's where it's going to throw a wrench in, I think, our lives when, and I did scare myself about this thought, like even just like a couple days ago, when we have the robots that also have your same avatar, like as a robot, that's when it starts getting scary because, yes, I do like the sense of being able to create a personalized avatar for yourself. And maybe that's just a whole other future that maybe I'm not ready for, but just thinking that you'll not just have a screen digital avatar that looks and feels and talks like you, but then now you have a physical thing that also is like you. That's where maybe I draw, I draw the line. I don't know. But
Have you seen that movie Surrogate? I think it was with Bruce
yeah,
Willis. Yeah.
I know. And that's obviously they've thought about this. I mean, it's not like we're going the opposite direction. If anything, we're going straight into it. And that's where I think I'm a little bit more scared of. But I think if we can all start to have hard stances of where we draw the line, like that will definitely matter. here in the future, because as soon as we just start saying, "Oh, I don't care," and or like, "I don't care about, I don't even want to think about that," that's where we let these things take over. And I think that's what we have to watch out for, is just being super mindful about where this is heading and what we're actually doing here.
I'm gonna look up that quote because it's just someone said it the other day, and I think it's super applicable.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's definitely scary, but
yeah, the quote was, "Yeah, your scientists are so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should," or something along those lines.
what
And yeah, and it is scary to think like how quickly more of the realistic robots and all of the self-driving. And I saw a video and reposted it the other day, a few weeks ago, a robot dog at Auditorium Shores, and there was like 8 dogs or something around it. What is this thing? And just like following it around doing dog stuff, and I was like, "That's insane." Now you're gonna have robot guard dogs, which is straight out of a Black Mirror episode. And
I know.
with how fast things go, it's hard. You think you have an opinion on how things are gonna go one day, and then new update comes out, and you're like, "Okay, we need to rethink how
I know,
fast this stuff is actually gonna be here."
and I know, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna contradict myself a dozen times with myself in the future, like whenever we do this again. But all I really want, if I did get a robot, is just fold my laundry and clean all day, every day, and just organize, and that's it. That's it. Essentially, all that I really would like to see in the thing. People are gonna like this, yeah, and this is where it gets like tricky too. Say if everyone had an Optimus robot or some robot, like a humanoid robot. I'm sure you've seen the people or heard of stories of people getting fired of doing the mouse like jiggler, like for work, the people who work remote, for example, like to keep awake their
Yeah,
work computer. And so you're going to get to the point where you're just going to have your robot not clean or do your laundry. You're just sitting at your desk, just typing away and using your mouse like he's working for you. So like people are going to end up buying these things just so that the robot can just end up coding for them. It's going to be the craziest
yeah.
reel to see that happen. And yeah, a lot of this stuff is so wild that I still can't believe we're living through all of it. It's fun to contribute and provide that value and be part of the whole shaping of it. That's why I'm very excited to, I'm sure you are too, to be part of this whole like journey, because we get to shape all of this in a way a little bit. But I'm trying to focus a little bit more on the ethical side and having these conversations to really land on a stance that cuts through all the way, like to the future. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I think, or at least I'm seeing more people talking about that right now, because I think in general it feels overwhelming across the board with how fast the technology is moving. And by the time you do form an opinion on something, we're already 5 years ahead of where we thought we would be in that case. And I agree with you on having more of those types of conversations, and the considerations of where things are more than likely going to land is like people are going to have their own AI robot assistant at their house. Like somebody's going to be able to do something, is going to be able to do your laundry, do the house chores, do that sort of thing. That's obviously going to have huge implications on a lot of people and what they do for a living. And it's like all these different advances are changing things for so many people. It's hard to really understand the grander implications of it. Of course, it's going to create new opportunities also, but across the board, there's just a lot more disruption. I think we're going to start seeing even now faster. Like you thought the last 3 or 4 years was a lot. Imagine what the next 3 to 5 years are going to look like. Like it's crazy to think that, at least when I started playing around with this stuff, we were playing around with Jasper at the time, and it was like, here's a blog topic idea. Oh, it gave me 5 ideas. That's what you were limited to with one template, and they had 20 different templates. And it's like, now that times 100,000 is what it's capable of doing in the time it took you to write one blog post. Don't quote me on those numbers because those aren't factual statistics from what it is, but that's certainly what it feels like with what you were able to do with a single input back then for what you're able to get now. What's that going to look like in 5 years? I don't know, but I am looking forward to not having to do my own laundry folding. I can tell you that much.
I know, me too. And it's coming. I know it's coming. I think where I sit with all of this is the optimism around, and it's weird to say, but how expensive all of this costs today to help limit that rate of change and that speed, where I feel like we can play that catch up and really control our destiny by that cost for how fast all of this is progressing. I think where it gets tricky is when all of these costs go to zero and energy is, say, solved in a way where it costs fraction like pennies to run actions and video, and
Mhm.
like the token generation costs are just, it doesn't even matter anymore because the productivity of all of these generations, whether it's a video or audio or text or action, is just so cheap for everybody. That's where then we all have to really look at ourselves and really ask what do we do as a society. And I do thinking about kind of that the idea of the roles and responsibilities of, say, the man and the woman, right? I know in the past, like we were more of that traditional like nuclear family type of like society. I know that's been lost because of the rise of inflation, cost of living, and women are working now. And I think if like obviously like families are important and building a family structure is important. I grew up like parents being in the loop. I think if we can get back to that and that's what we do with our free time, it's really freeing up our time so we can build families and really spend time with the people around us and building on those relationships, I think is going to be huge for
Mhm.
us because everyone's time is just so taken up with working right now, which is not a bad thing. Everyone needs to make money and all of that. But I think the roles have definitely changed dramatically in this 21st century. That I don't. It's definitely affected a lot of kind of conversations about how people are growing up and like what this next generation is going to look like. Definitely a species that have evolved from this this family structure, like into now a more. And I'm for this too, like the whole independence, like as an individual. But if we're going to continue procreating and building like a society and a culture and people, more people, like people can't just grow up by themselves. You know what I mean? I think we're going to have to like rethink a little bit too. It's okay. Say we do have a whole bunch of time. What do we do with all that time? I
If
think
realistically you're able to free up 80 to 100% of the stuff that you do, like how do you just be, what do you want to be doing during that time? And Justin, I hate to cut us off here with that, but I think this opened up a lot of really good thinking points for what will we do with our time? What are the things and the implications of what we're building towards? And how are we going to process our own work and in the time with AI, ethical considerations, all that taken into place? I think it's certainly a conversation that is worth keeping open for sure. And I'm looking forward to chatting more with you about it at the upcoming meetup if you'll be able to make it.
in
But I would
person.
encourage, yeah, in person. Yeah, no, I've been doing a lot less Zoom interview type of meetings just over the last year or so because there's just a lot more things I'd like to be doing, like going on walks than Zoom meetings. But I'm glad we were able to connect here, virtually meet at first. But yeah, definitely excited to see you in person soon and hopefully at the upcoming hackathon as well, March 1st.
Yeah, happy to come along.
Cool. Before we sign off here, where can people connect with you if they want to hit you up, learn more about what you're doing? And I know you live in Austin, so maybe actually meet up in person too.
Yeah, you can always follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me. I'm happy to connect up over there. Just Justin Runez, and visit our website Atlas Agent. You can also message and DM through that channel. And I should be posting more on X, but I do have a Substack, justinrunez.substack.com, where I release just topics and like my thoughts about AI and real estate and tech in general. Yeah, follow me there.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Justin. See you
Okay,
soon.
thanks, Darby.